Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio for the masses. Today's Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. 155 days into the new year. Only 211 days left. We are live. We are live from a bunker. A bunker that is somewhere in the middle of, that's right, beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world. All across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near, hither and thither. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? All right. Slight mood change, not only around here, but across the country. Can you feel it? That's right. It's because tonight, very special guest, Grant Cameron. Yeah, man. Grant Cameron is here. Oh, man. Time to get our feet back on the ground. Grant Cameron is joining us, and we are going to cover all of his latest research tonight. And then we will jump into all the UFO, UAP, ET acronyms and the news of those acronyms around the world. And tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Yeah, we've had a lot of open lines this week. Looking forward to that. I've taken a lot of phone calls. If we go back, to last Thursday night to today. Today's Wednesday. Oh man, I have taken hundreds of phone calls. Hundreds of phone calls. Feel like the operator in that new movie on Amazon. Oh man. Okay. All right. Yeah, Grant Cameron is here, so get ready for that. He's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Let's get some things out of the way. This is Fade to Black. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Follow me right there on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox on Twitter. Hashtag F2BQ is Fade to Black questions. And I just looked up UFO tweets. There's got a picture of a little baby deer drinking water out of a bubbling brook. Trying to stir trouble. See, trying to light the fires right there with a picture of Bambi. Meow with a picture of carnations. Oh, you guys are too much. It's true, though, isn't it? It's really true. It doesn't take anything. Olivia just posted a picture of I Dream of Jeannie, a GIF. And even that will incite emotions today. Yeah. Okay. All right. Where am I at? Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Okay? Any questions or comments, do post them to hashtag F2BQ. Grant Cameron is here. Lots of questions for you, and you can post them there. You can also pop them up in the email. If you're over, we broadcast all over the place. If you're over on YouTube, hello, everybody. If you got a question over on YouTube, I guess put it in all caps. One of our moderators will see it, and then maybe get it in here to me. I'm just trying to think of a way for everybody to get engaged tonight. And, of course, we have not only Twitter, we have the chat rooms. We have one over at Spreaker. We have one over at KGRA, The Planet. And, of course, our sandbox. And you can get everything going. And I try to stay on top of it. It's going to be a busy night on the show. And I always look forward to having Grant with us. So stay tuned. He will be with us at the bottom of the hour. Right now, I do want you to get your immune system boosted. Now is the time to do it. Coronavirus hasn't gone away. Lots of reports, too, today about numbers going back up here in the United States. Oh, man. So there's only one thing to do. There's only one thing you can do. Get your immune system boosted. Okay. I want you to visit gettheti.com and use the promo code FADER over there. And when you do that, you will get free shipping on all orders over $50. Go to the specials page. The immunity kit that they've got right there for you is perfect. That's a perfect way to get things started. Also, when you're over at jimmychurchradio.com, click on the banner right there for Billy Carson's new internet TV network. Go over there and get registered. And when you do, you will get 3 days free, right? 3 days, right? So go and do it right now. Trial membership, 3 days. Over at forbiddenknowledge.tv. Last night during the show, I went through 2 cups, 2 of these, of River Moon coffee. I got to tell you, I needed it last night. But after the show last night, this is why I love River Moon coffee. After the show, Rita and I started to binge. Didn't get too far into it, though, but Schitt's Creek. The last season 6. We've been putting it off because we're so bummed about it. That's it. It's over. It's the last season. That's it. But that's all possible because of River Moon Coffee. And I want you to visit rivermooncoffee.com. The banners and links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Also, you can visit their Amazon store and check out both of our blends. Fade to Black blend, Game Changer blend. Both of them will change your life. Guaranteed, man. It's the best coffee in the world. Every time I say it, do you guys have the same problem now? I go River Moon Coffee. It's Doc. You've got to have it. Right do you automatically just go, man, do I have time to go make a pot of coffee right now? Did I do it before the show? Is it ready? Is it ready? Do I have a cup ready? Am I good to go? That's what happens. That's what happens. I don't have an alarm clock. I'm going to let you guys know. I don't have an alarm clock in the morning. You know what gets me out of bed? River Moon Coffee. Smell it wafting up the stairs. Yeah. And Rita knows this too. Rita knows. I mean, Rita's up early in the morning. She's out on our patio. She's making phone calls, doing her things, taking notes, planning the future, keeping me organized, all of that. And she's like, that's it. He's had enough sleep. She goes and makes it. She knows. I'm downstairs 5 minutes after that. I am just good to go. Good morning, honey. How you doing? Oh, man. What's better, the taste of coffee or the smell of coffee? What is better? tie. Tea. Tie. Because it's tasty, no doubt. Tasty. But the smell of coffee, right? Breaking news. Breaking news. If you haven't heard, I don't know where you have been today, but all 4 former officers involved in George Floyd's murder have now been formally charged during a live press conference today by Minnesota AG Keith Ellison. Derek Chauvin, who pressed his knee into Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes, had previously been charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. The new second-degree murder charge announced earlier today says that he killed Floyd without intent in the course of committing assault in the third degree. Thomas Lane and J. Alexander Kung, who helped restrain Floyd, and To Tao, who stood near the officers, were not initially charged. Lane, 37 years old, Kung, 26 years old, and Tao, 34, are now charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter. Second-degree murder and aiding and abetting second-degree murder are punishable by up to 40 years in prison. Manslaughter and aiding and abetting manslaughter are punishable by up to 10 years in prison. That's it. They're all in custody. Also today, Snapchat removed President Trump from their promotion tab over, quoting them, inciting racial violence and injustice. Announcing it removed Trump from its Discover tab, accusing him of promoting racial violence and injustice in tweeting about rioters outside of the White House. They went on to say, this is a quote, "We are not currently promoting the president's content on Snapchat's Discover platform. We will not amplify voices who incite racial violence and injustice by giving them free promotion on Discover. Racial violence and injustice have no place in our society, and we stand together with all who seek peace, love, equality, and justice in America." End quote. Discover promotes news publishers, elected officials, celebrities, and other influencers who have a presence on their platform. President Trump is followed by more than 1.5 million Snapchat users. Also, today, now, I want you to understand something. The news that I just present the news. I report the news. It's vetted information. I go through it, 1 source, 2 source, 3 source, bam, news, right? Okay, now, this next news story is something you knew nothing about. NASA is reporting, now, and I'm giving this to you, half of it is after the fact. That's right, the news is already past us. So check this out. NASA is reporting that at least 5 asteroids, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 asteroids are flying towards Earth this week. That's right. 4 of the near-Earth objects cruised past last night. That's right. And you didn't know about it because there were other news grabbing the headlines. The 108-foot wide 2020 KK-7 coasted by us at 34,000 miles an hour. There's another one, 2020 KD-4, measuring 115 feet wide, cruised by at 12,000 miles per hour. The biggest of yesterday's bunch, the 144-foot 2020 KF, shot past our planet at 24,000 miles per hour, about 2.9 million miles away. And then there was 2020 KJ1, measuring a relatively paltry 105 feet and plodding along at 11,000 miles per hour, brought up the rear. It was the last rock to pass us by yesterday, and they all did it together. It's not over, though. Now, this is the part of the breaking news that you need to be aware of. Because in a couple of days, an asteroid potentially taller than New York's Empire State Building and the London Eye combined, known as 2002 NN4, is going to pass by the Earth this Saturday, June 6th. Trip on that, right? Normally, I like to stay on top of these things, but hey, the headlines are buried with other stuff. Now, I want to let you know the StarWorks UFOs and Artificial Intelligence Conference in Laughlin, Nevada is going down November 5th through the 8th at the Aquarius Hotel and Casino. I'm going to be there speaking. I'm going to be speaking on AI. Get ready for that. Rita's going to be there. Our Fade to Black crew is going to be there. Grant Cameron, our guest tonight, is going to be there. Paul Hynek's going to be there. James Fox, Alan Stivelman, Sid Goldberg, and another dozen great speakers. So I want you to go to StarWorksUSA.com for tickets and info, banners and links over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Disclosure Fest, one of the biggest events in the world, is going on my birthday, October 10th. That is Saturday, October 10th, at the historic Los Angeles Park in downtown Los Angeles. Okay, I want you to go to disclosurefest.org so you can check out all of the great speakers, the vendors, everything that's going on, music, yoga, meditation, mass meditation. Been hosting this event now this will be our 4th year. Huge event, 20,000 attendees. Disclosurefest.org. It's totally free, too. That's right. Disclosurefest.org. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, my man, Peter Takarin. Today, 50. Slayers, Kerry King today, 56. Mott the Hoople's Ian Hunter. I had to double check this today. Then I went and watched a video for all the young dudes. Ian Hunter, 81 years old. Stereophonics frontman Kelly Jones today is 46. And Rita's favorite, Susie Quattro, today, 70 years old. And leading up the pack today, one of my favorite singers in the world, Doro Pesch. She's just Doro. Doro, the queen of metal. Doro Pesch today, 56 years old. Remember her band, Warlock? Yeah, man. Dora Pesch, 56 years old. On this day in history, 1956, OTD. Rock and roll is banned in Santa Cruz, California. City authorities announced a total ban on rock and roll at public gatherings, calling the music, and I quote, detrimental to both the health and morals of our youth and community, end quote. They banned them both. The rock and the roll. Fader fact. Rita, are you listening? Philadelphia cream cheese was invented in New York. That's right. And it has never been produced in Philadelphia. Its name was an 1880s marketing strategy because at the time, New York didn't make good cheese, and Philadelphia was known for high-quality dairy. There you go. Tonight, very special guest, Grant Cameron, joins us. We're going to be covering all of his latest research. He's an amazing researcher. And we're going to be covering all of the UFO, UAP, ET news from around the world. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Let me hit this River Moon coffee. Nancy, where'd you get this picture? Is that Italian food? I'm trying to remember. Is that Italian food? Wow. I'm trying to remember when that was. Couldn't have been that long. I'm trying to think that Van Halen t-shirt I'm wearing and the bracelet. So is that about a year ago? Italian food here at the house? I don't remember that going down. Was it good? It looks good. All right. As I reported earlier in the breaking news, all 4 ex-MPD officers involved in the murder of George Floyd have been charged, and reports are now that they are all in custody. Now, today was the first full day of normal television here in Los Angeles. That's right. Instead of the live 24-hour news that took over every local news channels here in our city, that was going on for the last week. And I can only speak for myself, but I feel a true sense of relief. The protests will go on, as they should, but the looting has all but stopped, and the negative side of everything has started to chill out. Yeah. I say these things to you tonight because we are all Americans. And we're all affected by these events of lawlessness that have occupied the media. And the tense feelings that we all have when watching things just spin out of control. Hopefully, we have moved past the stupid stuff. And we can now start to figure out a way forward. The path we choose will be the right one. One that involves all of us. From individuals to the media, artists, politicians, the community, law enforcement, every sector of our great nation. Our community, this community, probably understands all of this better than just about any group that you can think of. You see, we have wanted nothing but change, disclosure, and we are used to the fight. All we do around here is question the system, the man. And this community is made up of every type of person that is possible. Everybody is here. Everybody is welcome. It doesn't matter what you think about politics, that is left on the table. Religion, on the table. Music, food, your background, none of that matters here. None of it. All we want here is to unite, to be heard, and to fight the good fight. That is what we do and who we are. And it's because of this, our welcoming nature, our open-mindedness, the way that we converse and talk and share ideas, and our pursuit of secrets and knowledge and constantly chasing the man for answers. It's because of that we are also greatly moved by the events over the last week. Leaving aside, of course, the traumatic situation that we've all been in for the last 3 or 4 months. But now that these 4 guys, these 4 murderers responsible for George Floyd, now that they are in custody, their mugshots are there for all of us to see. Right? And some of the pressure now has been relieved, and we can now start to move forward to real change. And I think that's important. We now have a lot of work in front of us. Nothing has gone away because we still have to rebuild an entire world's economy. We still have to get our kids back in school. We still have mortgage and rent and bills and a job to think about. We have to deal with the trials of these ex-MPD officers. We also have, and I don't know if you guys know this, we have a presidential election coming up. And of course, with all of that, we have our continuing efforts to answer the questions about an ET presence here on Earth and that quest for knowledge. So tonight, we have Grant Cameron with us, one of the great minds in our community. And he joins us right in the middle of everything that we are all dealing with. And although we'll be talking about all of the great subjects that he's constantly researching, he's also just like you. It's going to be interesting to get his take on the sea of change that this planet is currently dealing with. One of the funnest things that I can do is when I get to sit down with my favorite researchers, and authors and just talk, at lunch maybe or over a drink and just chat about anything but UFOs and Bigfoot. When this happens, you get their best stuff because, they're used to talking about the same old stuff, UFOs and abductions. But once you get them started on life, once you do that, the conversation lasts for hours, right? Now, we always save the UFO stuff. We save that stuff for the show. It's the opposite with Grant. Grant, my man Grant, is UFOs 24/7. Seriously. Hey, Grant, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. Jimmy, man, have you heard about the latest case? Whoa, Grant, how's the family? Man, this latest case, man, we got to... Grant. So tonight, let's see if I can get the other side of Mr. Grant Cameron. And don't worry. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Oh, no. We're going to get to the good stuff because it's Grant Cameron. Seriously. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. As you can see, there has been a general mood change around here, around the country. The pressure relief valve has been popped a little bit. We can all relax. I've got normal TV back on, which I never watch anyway. But if I choose to, it's just normal stuff, right? And hopefully you are seeing the same and feeling the same things in your part of the world. With that, I'm going to get out of here and take a break. I'm going to come back with our guest tonight, Mr. Grant Cameron. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. I cannot wait for this. It's going to be a great conversation. It's Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at wtih.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to gettheti.com. That's gettheti.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Gettheti.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's gettheti.com. Gettheti.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Grant Cameron joins us. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow night, Fader Night. Open lines all night long. It's going to be a great show tomorrow night. Done a lot of open lines this week with all of you. And it's going to be great to sit down and just have a conversation tonight. Feel a little bit more normal tomorrow night. But tonight it's Grant. And we are going to be covering all of the latest research that Grant finds himself in. And we're going to cover all of the UFO, ET, UAP headlines from around the world in another open and comprehensive conversation that we always do with Grant. He has been a UFO researcher since 1975 and was recognized as both the Leeds Conference International Researcher of the Year and the UFO Congress Researcher of the Year. He's a world-renowned expert on UFOs, conspiracies, government cover-ups, and has spent decades watching and chronicling developments around the extraterrestrial contact. He is the author of Charlie Red Star, and his website, of course, is beyondpresidentialufo.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Grant Cameron. Grant, how are you tonight, man?
Fantastic, Jimmy.
It's great.
Fantastic. Thanks for having us on. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you know what's great? The audience can't see us, but tonight, you and I don't know how many shows and interviews and things we've done over the years. This is the first time we've done it face-to-face. Right, they can't see it, but tonight, Grant and I are watching each other on video. But welcome back to the program, and it has been Grant. Before we get to the UFO subject, we would not really be too responsible if we ignore the elephant in the room, and that is the sea of change that is going around the world right now and across the United States. And you're just north of us up there in Canada, which means you're involved by proxy, right? So, yeah. And how are you guys doing up there, and what's the mood like?
It's not quite as tense as it is down in the United States. We have, of course, we had the same sort of unemployment thing. We don't have the rioting or anything like that. That's your belief in separation. I'm different than you, and you have the problem with the African American. We had just before COVID, we had the problem with Aboriginals, which is our sort of belief in separation up here, where they were blockading stuff and over pipelines and stuff like that. So you always get that kind of stuff, but we sort of look down at the United States and say, well, we're much better off than what's going on there, even though there's still lots of unemployed people here. Restaurants have gone back to serving in the last couple of days. People are allowed in hospitals. I don't think we have a single person in a hospital here right now. So we've basically got no cases. We got the 5G, but we got no COVID cases. That's the 3D version. The way I look at it, I'm going to do a panel coming up, because I've moved off sort of the UFO thing and I've gotten into the sort of the what's reality type thing. I'm doing a panel shortly where I'm going to have six people on who had the vision. They I've just done a book called Contact Modalities, people who sort of get into the field and pick up information. I've got 6 from different, one's from a float tank out of LA. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are near-death experience people. And basically they get the vision that everything is absolutely perfect. Everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And it's a really, really, you go like, come on, this is like crazy stuff. And yet these people will come back from these near-death experiences and say, this is the vision, this is the dream, that's the reality. And this very bizarre thing that in the end, it's like it's a reincarnation world. So whatever it is, you're being dealt a bunch of cards. Play the cards, quit whining. You can always find someone who's worse off than you, someone who's better off than you. And that's sort of what I spend a lot of my time doing. I'm actually now working on a book called Extraterrestrial or Maybe Not. And it looks into this whole aspect of the crossovers between UFOs and weird things like the spirit world, where I'll give you 2 examples. Just blew me away. Where a lot of people who we consider to be abductees will say, I was allowed to go into the spirit world, and I'm in the spirit world. There's a Mormon friend of mine, Ron Johnson, out of Utah, says I'm there and I'm with my mother 3 times. I'm in the spirit world, and she's showing me around. She shows me this building, and it's a small little tiny building. It looks like a temple. We go inside the temple, and he said it was 10 times the size inside as it was outside. And as soon as he said that, I went, oh, Chris Bledsoe said the same thing.
Right.
When Chris Bledsoe told me he flew the flying saucer, I said, Chris, stop. I want you to tell me about the flying saucer. Tell me, how do you fly a flying saucer? And because I knew I've got 50 people that have told me how to do it. But he told me in the same thing. He said it was 10 times the size inside as outside. And Terry Lovelace has said the same thing. A bunch of UFO experiencers have said the same thing. So I'm saying, well, are they having a UFO abduction, or are they in the spirit world? And the other thing he talked about in his experience was, he says, my mother takes me in this building, and there's a big, huge table. She takes me to the far end of the room, and there's this big, huge table there, and there's these crystals in the table. And the crystals are coming out of the table, and if you look at the crystal, everybody's got their own crystal. So, Jimmy, when you die, you have this crystal, and you look in the crystal, and you can see all your past lives, you can see your lives, and you plan your future lives. And as soon as he said that you look at the crystal at a certain angle, I'm thinking, that's UFO Cover-Up Live, 1988.
Right.
Richard Doty says the most amazing thing he saw was the aliens had this crystal. And you took the crystal, and you looked at it at a certain angle, and you could see the history of the world. And so you see these parallels that are crossing over. And that's when I did this contact modality book. And so I'm coming to the sort of the conclusion that the world of UFOs, the world as we know it, is a lot less physical than people think it is. It's a lot more spiritual than people think it is. It's like a probably 100,000, a million times more complex. When I look at the UFO phenomena and I start looking at people, their actual stories and this kind of stuff, I start to realize like it's not going to be, there may be an ET component to it, but it's going to be much more complex than ETs.
I've seen the cover for the book. Is it out?
It was just out yesterday, and today I just put, a couple of minutes ago, I just put the first 50 pages of the book on there, because it's a very, very long book.
And you co-wrote it with
channeling and mediumship and alien abduction. It goes through all the different modalities where people claim that they were in a different world. They were picking up material or whatever. So I put up 50 pages, and that basically explains the beginning. What I think is actually going on. How does this happen? And what the basic concept is you have a right brain, left brain, and your left brain ego keeps you in the physical world. And if you can stop the chitter chatter in your head,
right,
whether it's through meditation, through a head injury, through an alien abduction or whatever, you can suddenly be in this field and you can pick up material. For example, 40% of all the free survey, and you've interviewed Ray Hernandez, 40% of all people that claim they had the UFO experience, that have been abducted or had the experience, say they knew the answer to everything in the universe at one point during the experience. And when they came back, they forgot it. Near-death experience people say exactly the same thing. And near-death experience, for example, will tell you, the people who have near-death experiences will say they drain batteries. They can't wear watches.
Right.
They wreck electronic equipment when they touch it. That's Chris Bledsoe. That's exactly, even Kathy Martin, they did a study on this where someone said, I think I was abducted last night, and they would measure them, and they would have this field that they could burn out electronics, or the lights would go off and stuff like that. Near-death experience is the same thing. So what I'm looking at now is all these crossovers and saying, maybe this is all the same thing. And we're just looking at it from different perspectives, and that it's the same thing. But the key thing, as you said, how's it going? The thing that really blew me away, and the guy in LA who got it in the float tank, he was so embarrassed about this vision that he got, that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be, that we choose everything that happens to us, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and we it's how we play our cards. He didn't even tell his wife. He didn't tell anybody. I was the first guy he told. He said, I can't believe I saw that I had this vision. And so in the reincarnation world, it comes down to the whole idea. And I remember I asked Kathy Martin about this. There's the whole thing with the UFO abductee people, where they say, are they being taken against their will, or is there a soul contract? And I remember I asked everybody. I asked Barbara Lamb. I asked, Mary Rodwell. And then I asked Kathy Martin. I said, Kathy, what do you think? She says, I didn't know, so I got myself regressed back to birth. And I actually heard the words come out of my mouth. I chose to do this. And so there's this whole idea that we like to play the victim. We like to say, oh, I'm having a terrible life, and you got a better life than me, and I'm being treated unfairly. And in the end, it may be this, almost what Jacques Vallée said. It may be just a giant kabuki theater, and the only message is we aren't alone.
Does it indicate to you, oh, by the way, so the book is out. Where can you co-wrote it with Desta, right?
Yeah. Desta's actually did a lot of the modalities. So she did all the editing. She put it up. She arranged the cover, all that sort of stuff. She does a lot of that stuff for me because she's younger than me and knows the technology stuff that I don't know. But she does channeling, and she's one of the ones where she learned this thing. So what the whole idea, the concept is, so you're in the alpha state most of the time,
right.
And when your eyes are awake, you're thinking whatever. And then when you want to go to sleep, you have to go from the alpha state down through the theta state into the delta state. That's when you're sleeping at the bottom. And it's the theta state is where these people pick it up. So once you shut the left brain down, you're in the theta state, and you can suddenly, leave your body or have these experiences, whatever. So Desta was able to do this. And so when I first met her, she said they had taught her how to do this. And so I would say to her, okay, ask them this, ask them that. And that's the way I figured is, if you have these things where people that can get in the field, why would you not take advantage of this? Because it's almost like, you have people who do radio broadcasts, and then you have Jimmy Church. I mean, there's people at different levels of how they do it. So there are some channelers who are really not that good, and there are some channelers that are really good. Like when you talk to Bashar, you realize like this guy ain't making this stuff up. He's at some different level than the rest of the people. And so what I try to do is I try to tap into that rather than using the rational analytical mind to try to figure it out. I figure these people know something. I'm going to find out who these people are and how did they get in the field and how far did they get in the field? How much were they almost like through water? How close did they get to the surface of the water where there was lots of light where they could see stuff? Because we're down at the bottom in the darkness. And then use that. If you have experiencers who say they can heal people, why would we not study them? If there's people say 42% of all experiencers say they have mathematical, scientific, or technical material in their head that they did not learn in school, why would you not talk to these people? So that's basically where I'm chasing now, is to try to track down these people who seem to have ripped the veil and gotten on the other side.
Have you found, and we've talked about this before, but on other subjects, but have you found that everything is connected, right? Everything is connected. And when we're talking about these different ideas inside of our community, Grant, science and physics and quantum, they've been pursuing this on an analytical sense through algorithms, going back to Isaac Newton, right? They're chasing these same things that we are questioning and experiencing in our community too. Everything is connected, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the name of my publishing company. It's all connected. It's all one word. It's all connected. So yeah, it is. And that's the whole thing. And you start looking at, we sort of make these mistakes. I had two download experiences. One was in 2012. One was in about 2017, which is a very complex download. And it basically was giving me the thing that said, is the world made out of consciousness or made out of nuts and bolts? If it's made out of nuts and bolts, that's one world with certain rules. But if it's not, if it's made out of consciousness, it's a completely different world with different rules. So it was giving me is it this or that?
Right.
And one of the things that I think we sort of mistake is we still are stuck in this sort of Newtonian world where we're all mixed up. So you'd get a thing where you say, time and space don't exist. Einstein basically, we know this. We know this is probably going to be true, that it's just an impression in our head. And yet we talk about planets out there. Or you go to the thing with John Wheeler and another physicist where they're talking about there's only one electron. And you get into quantum physics and you start to realize the world is just not what we think it is. This idea that it may be all within ourselves, that there is no out there. Where are you actually seeing? And that's where I start going after these kids who are able to look through blindfolds. So the whole thing is, how are these kids able to see? Or they teach blind people to see. And the thing is, have they recreated, like when you have an out-of-body experience or a near-death experience and you're floating at the corner of the room in the hospital room, these people can see and they can hear. People say, well, the brain's still alive. It doesn't matter. The eyes are closed. It doesn't matter. You cannot see. So they're seeing with something else. And then these people, you see that people have started to develop these techniques And I think we're so far along the road in terms of people starting to understand how this works and the experiments and stuff. There's just no money in it. But I think we've moved a long way in terms of understanding the role of consciousness in this thing. And I keep saying over and over again, I said, until people understand the role of consciousness in this thing, we are going to be just banging our head against the wall. We've done it for 73 years. We're looking at sightings, which tell you one thing, that UFOs exist. Yeah, it's real. Or as Jacques Vallée said about Nimitz, it's a UFO sighting 15 years ago. It's time to get over it. We got to move to the next step and try to figure out, how do they get here? Or even if you've seen the interview where Kit Green is trying to get Jim Peniston's DNA a couple of years ago, and Jim Peniston said, "I'm not letting this guy out of the room. He's going to tell me what the heck's going on here." And what Kit Green says to him is, "We're trying to figure out how do they pop in and how do they pop out." Well, I've known that for a long time. People think they're sort of flying here, but anybody who knows enough and talked to enough experiencers or people like Mission Rama people realize they're popping in and they're popping out. They come in as a ball of light and they turn into a being, and then they go back to a ball of light and they disappear. And that's why I'm saying it's way more complex than we think it is. We think it's sort of like nuts and bolts. Or if you go to the 50 people, and everybody has said the same thing. When I did Orange County, I don't know if you know the guy who's the F-16 pilot there. He came and he told me his story. And he said, they said, "Tell him your story about flying the craft." And I said, "You flew the craft? You flew the craft?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "But it's just a dream." I said, "Everybody says it's a dream. Tell me." And then he said, "Oh, he's a pilot." And I said, "Well, my father's a pilot. My son's a pilot." And then he ended up telling me he's an F-16 retired U.S. Air Force colonel, flew in Iraq. And he told me the same story. And the whole thing is that the craft is alive. You become one with the craft, and whatever you think is what the craft does. And you can get stories where somebody like Ron Johnson tells a story where they ask, "Where do you want to go?" And he says, "I want to see the Milky Way from a distance." And they say it'll be a very intense G-force. He said it lasted for 1 second. He looked out the window and there was the Milky Way in the distance. We do not have the technology, no matter what anybody says. This is really complex. They are like light years ahead of us in terms of what's going on. And I maintain that it is not going to be as physical as people think it is.
Now, you brought up John Wheeler, and we have Wheeler and Everett, and maybe, today, like Leonard Susskind, that if they were always leaning towards something more spiritual, trying to figure out what consciousness was. Very controversial to do in the physics community, as you know. Very agnostic, atheist. For them to lean in that direction kind of freaks everybody out. But certainly that is where physics is leading them. They can answer a lot of questions, but they can't get to the fundamental answers of what consciousness is and what entanglement may mean with all of that, right?
Yeah, and yet we've known since 1950. I remember, I don't know if you saw the thing where I was talking to Nick Pope, and Nick Pope said, "Well, consciousness is not really my thing. I really don't know." But the Canadians knew. So it's almost like the Brits were put in the naughty corner. They didn't know what was going on. The Canadians knew in November of 1950 that consciousness was involved. And that was 2 years before anybody talked to an alien. That was before Adamski and Williamson and all these guys, where the Canadians wrote the top secret memo, said, "Flying saucers exist. It's the most highly classified subject in the United States. There's a small group headed by Dr. Vannevar Bush that are trying to figure out the modus operandi. It's of tremendous significance to the Americans. And we were also told by Americans that other things such as mental phenomena might be involved. And they aren't doing very well because they said if we're working on it, they're willing to exchange credentials and talk to us." So the Canadians knew in 1950. The question is, how did they know? Before anybody talked to an alien, now we know they're telepathic. How did they know? Well, potentially because in Roswell, they had a live alien, and the alien was talking in people's heads. And they went, "Oh my God, this thing's talking in our heads." So they've known this. Same as when Jan Harzen talks to Ben Rich, and he says, how do they get here? I need to know. And he turns around and he says, "What do you know about ESP?" And they said, "Well, it means everything in time and space is connected." And he said, "That's how it works." Eric Walker, head of Penn State University, Assistant Secretary of Defense, the guy who started DARPA and the Institute for Defense Analysis, was a chairman, the top military think tank, said to us, "What do you know about ESP? Unless you know about ESP, you will not be taken in by the control group." Very few people understand how it works. And then you take Tom DeLonge. Tom DeLonge goes to Lockheed. He's in the top secret SCIF, and the head scientist says, "How does it work? What's it all about?" And then he says, "Well, I think consciousness is involved." And he said, this head scientist said, "Now you're talking." and couldn't shut him up for 45 minutes, wanted to talk about consciousness. So they understand that consciousness is involved, but it's so far beyond what we've got in terms of understanding how does it fit in. And that's where I'm actually doing a paper now. I always have this sort of debate. People say, the government's got this technology. Like Linda Howe was given this material from somebody that we've been trading with star systems since the 1970s or whatever. And I'm looking and I'm going, no, I don't think so. If you look at Eric Davis, the debate between, you've seen the emails between Eric Davis and Sarfati.
Right.
And they're sitting there talking about the mathematics for flying the Nimitz, the tic-tac. And at one point, Davis says, you're connecting dots that don't exist. Go back to consciousness physics and quit ruining physics, or however he phrased it. But he used the word consciousness physics. And so if these two guys are arguing about floating this little layered piece of metal, they ain't got anything. And Hal Puthoff was asked. He said, no, I haven't seen the technology. I just released an interview with Richard Doty. Richard Doty talks about Hal Puthoff being brought pieces of the craft, and he couldn't get them to work. And if you talk to Melinda Leslie will say they give them to experiencers too. And they say, can you make this work? And the experiencer can make the piece of thing work. And that they say, we got another one. They know who's an experiencer based upon whether they can make this piece of material. So I start looking, I look at all these guys, Ron Pandolfi, I don't deal with him, but I deal with people around him. And he says basically, yes, this phenomena is for real, but that we don't have anything. All these people are loons, crooks, and worse. That they're just trying to make money off this thing. And so I start looking at these very high-level guys. I have yet to see a high-level guy who says, yeah, we got it. Because every time you look, and I've followed these guys since the 1980s, like Hal Puthoff, Kit Green. Kit Green actually was involved in talking to Dr. Eric Walker. So was Hal Puthoff. And that was my guy. That was Eric Walker. That was the investigation we did from 1983 on. So you start to see this thing where I think Eric Davis said they put it on the shelf in 1989, and George Knapp seemed to confirm that as well. That every couple of years they try to bring it out, but it's so far advanced that the idea that we've got stuff where it's 10 times the size inside as it is outside, or that you can fly a craft with your mind, I don't think we have. We have bioboards where you can take a rat brain. I don't know if you've seen these experiments where they take a rat brain and they fly an F-22 simulator with 10,000 neurons from a rat brain. They can do that kind of stuff, but it's always going to be biological. And that's the whole idea behind the craft. It's not putting consciousness into a craft. It's all consciousness. So you take a bioboard and you can fly an F-22 simulator. And that was 2004. So that's almost 16 years ago that was in the white world. So that kind of stuff they can do, that being a symbiotic with a plane. But you're always going to need biology. You're always going to need a living organism that moves it.
Now, I wanted to ask you before we get to the break, when we bring up some of the, the names in the boys club, Pandolfi and Semivan and Kit and Sarfati, Puthoff, Eric Davis, that all of them seem to be asking questions, but it doesn't seem like any of them have concrete answers. Are they chasing the answers? Are they themselves compartmentalized? Are they not actually in the know that most of the community would like to think that, that's where they are at? Because they all have the connections to the CIA. They all have the connections going back to SRI. They've been involved in the subject since the 1970s. They've been in the boys club together for a very long time. But are they actually still looking for answers, or do they have them?
That's where the more I look at it, the more I don't think they have the answers. I think they know more than you and I know. They may know certain aspects, but in terms of having it, there was this famous story with this core story that Kit Green, Hal Puthoff, and Jacques Vallée get together at a Denny's restaurant, if you've heard that story. And they say, this is the 1980s, and they're saying, there's lots of garbage going around, lots of stories. What do we know for sure? And what they concluded was, we're being visited by something. We have crash material, and we're not able to back engineer it. And that's what I've heard. And in fact, the Wilson document, which has now been verified as having come from the Edgar Mitchell files, which is where exactly I said it came from. Mm-hmm. You'll see at the very end, Wilson, the head intelligence guy in the United States, cannot get a briefing, but some other guy gets a briefing, and that guy says, we can't back engineer this stuff. We're not getting anywhere with it. And that's the whole thing, because it has this consciousness connection to it. that they've stumbled on this whole thing. So these guys, what I believe they're doing, and a lot of them are experiencers, like Semi Van's an experiencer, Gary Nolan's an experiencer, Jacques Vallée's an experiencer, Sarfati indicates that Hal Puthoff might be an experiencer, Sarfati's an experiencer, and you get these guys who are trying to get out of the black world, because what the problem is, according to what Doty told me, is that you have a craft and you break the craft into pieces, and that's how you do a scientific problem. You break it into small pieces, you hand it out to different labs, but the labs aren't talking to each other. And that's why you always hear them talking about Tom DeLonge and these guys. It's all stovepiped, and we got to get it out of being stovepiped, because nobody's talking to each other, because everybody's got the pieces, but they're trying to get it into the white world so that you can all these people, this cosmic club or whatever, so these people can talk with each other and how this stuff works. And that's why they've gone to Congress, and that's why they've done the spin for the fear thing. So you're not going to get any money, because during the Obama administration, Leslie Kean was doing it with John Podesta, and they were doing the whole thing. It's a threat to airline traffic. And I guess Congress just went, like, get out of here, you stupid idiots, And now they're doing the thing, it's going to be a threat. We're going to get taken over and stuff. And then they get the money, so they get the fear thing. Congress gives them the money, and they get this money for the white world so they can work on it. And of course, everybody's going to have a job. Everybody's going to walk around with a suitcase full of money. They're going to have patents. You're going to have all this kind of stuff. So they're trying to move it into the white world, which is a good thing. But then the thing is, what are they going to do? I mean, you take Trump's latest speech about going to Mars, and we're going to have great new weapons and stuff. And that's my fear, is that we're going to use this for weapons rather than to make a better mankind.
Now, in 60 seconds, Grant, we have that, right? We have the core group of the boys club, and then we have what has to be volumes of data and knowledge of the real stuff inside of the Pentagon and maybe the CIA and so forth, Area 51. Then we have that. How does the boys club get access to that, or is that just shut off forever? Can you do that in 60 seconds?
Well, I think they've all got connections. If you hear the latest interview that was released with Eric Davis, he says he's still a contractor on ATIP. And Eric Davis worked in intelligence when he was very young. He was in Korea working on intelligence. And then he worked for the Air Force on technical stuff related to this for the Air Force. And so they're all sort of in the field, and they've got little pieces of the story. It's the general story that they're missing. So they according to what Richard told you that he had seen the document, the Wilson document, before from somebody who already had it. Mm-hmm. And he was told there was at least one body. And that's the whole idea about the alien autopsy. So even though they've got craft material and they've got bodies, the thing is, it's one thing to have it, like take a watch in the 16th century and turn it around and make technology out of it. That's where we're missing the thing. So they've got little bits and pieces. They know more than you and I. But in terms of how this thing goes together, I don't think they know, because they're not talking. And Hal Puthoff confirmed, To the Stars is not talking about consciousness. And it's like, as long as they're not talking about consciousness, they're just trying to get money, and they're trying to do something that's still not going to work.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Grant Cameron. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. I told you it's going to be one of those conversations. You stay right there on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. More with Grant after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fade or not, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fade or Not by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright-Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your old Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Grant Cameron. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Grant. That's real easy. At Grant Cameron. We've got everything up in Twitter. Grant hangs out in social media, man. He's always causing trouble. And Grant, this year, 2020, everything got canceled except we're going to be going up to Laughlin, Nevada, down to Laughlin, Nevada for you for the StarWorks UFOs and Artificial Intelligence Conference coming up in November. You excited?
Yeah, well, Canadians, when it's 40 below, are always excited to go to Laughlin, Nevada. It's like
no question about it. And this is the thing for me and you, where we go out all year long and attend these conferences and get to hang out and break bread and talk to everybody. It's so much fun. That's been taken away from us. I'm really itching to get to Laughlin, Nevada, so we can start to get back to normal. I don't know about you, but I need to see some faces.
Yeah, and that's the big thing people don't realize in the UFO community is that a lot of people, almost everybody, it's almost a pattern. People will come to me, experiencers, and say, they'll tell their story, and then they'll say, oh, and my kid thinks I'm crazy, and I'm not allowed to see my grandkids. And I go, that's the pattern. That's exactly the way it is. And in fact, I had the near-death experience. I said to the one woman with the near-death experience, she said she did some of the major work for Jeffrey Long's book that was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. And I said to her, she said, my father was an atheist. My mother was an atheist. My father didn't care about religion. So I said, what about your kids? What do your kids think? No, they think I'm crazy. No. That's like, well, it's just like the UFO community. It's like, and it's almost like generational. It's like my kid, the same thing. That's why I'm putting my stuff in an archives, and I always encourage people to do it. If you've been in the field and you've got some material, you should document your story and then you should put it in an archives. Because usually my kid will throw stuff in the garbage. He has no interest whatsoever. And you always think that it'll pass on. And Wilbur Smith, who ran the Canadian government UFO program, was the same thing. His kids had no interest whatsoever. It's the general pattern. So when you get these conferences, what you see is people go to those conferences and it's like long lost friends. And it's like, whoa, hugging and kissing. And everybody's just, that's their family, because this is people who will listen to them. Or you see these experiencer things where they have in the morning. Remember how they the big UFO Congress or stuff, they have them in the back room and they have them at 8 o'clock in the morning, because everybody's sort of afraid to be seen. And so it's an hour and a half before the first lecture starts. And the place is packed. It's like 150 people, and people are crying, and they come from all around the country. And that's because this is the community where you can talk to people, you can share stories, and nobody thinks you're a nutcase.
One of the things that I enjoy, and I don't know how I've had the ability to do this, but going to conferences as often as we do, where you have, in some cases, 500 attendees, 1,000 attendees, 5,000 attendees, I know everybody, right? Yeah. I know every attendee. We see them over and over again. And just like you, it's one big family, and I miss it. And for those out there that have never been to a conference, that's why I encourage you to go. First off, it's just fun. You get to say whatever you want. Somebody is going to listen, and you are able to hang out with like-minded people that you, more than likely, your family doesn't listen, or they don't have a concern, or your coworkers. You go to a UFO conference, and it's like being at the barbershop, right? You can just go in and say whatever you want.
And people are kind of surprised, because I can talk very fast and talk for hours on end. But when I'm here in Winnipeg, I really don't talk to anybody. And people are really surprised when they hear that I can go days without talking to anybody, because they're just, nobody's into it. And so you get the situation where you get sort of ostracized. And somebody said to me one time, they said, you really don't have any friends. And I said, what? Are you kidding me? I don't have any friends. I may not have any friends here around Winnipeg. But I said, I can go to any state in the United States. I can go to most countries, and I can call up if I get in trouble, I can call up in LA and call up about 10 people I would know. And that's what people don't realize. Your friends are all over the place, and it's a different sort of community. And it's a lot of it's on the internet, but it's people and it's surprising when you start listing how many people you actually know. It is staggering how many people we actually do know.
Yeah, when I have somebody come up to me at a conference and go, "Hey, Jimmy, it's me, UFO Bob on Twitter." I'm like, dude, how you doing? You've been talking to him for years, right? And we know everything about each other's family and life. And I see the same thing going on inside of the UFO community, because they hang out. They know each other, not the researchers, not the authors. The community knows each other too. And it's great to see them all get together and laugh and have fun. I wanted to ask you, let's circle back to something. When you mention symbiotic, and I would have to. I speculated on this a lot, Grant, that if we're dealing with a technology from somebody that can get here, remember, we haven't, allegedly, we don't know for sure, but we haven't gotten there yet, right? Yeah. We don't have starships. We don't have, we're not, that I know of, we're not jumping into stargates and wormholes yet. Maybe we have in the past. But that being said, they are definitely getting here. So we're dealing with the technology and an intelligence that, quite frankly, we shouldn't understand. There's no way that we can have a concept with that, which is fine. But if we're talking about something like a symbiotic control and communication, that only makes sense to me. It only makes sense. Now, would we understand that? I don't know. But would that limit our ability to fly their craft? Right? Let's say we do a crash retrieval or we're given a craft. Does that mean we can't fly it? I mean, right? Is that where I'm...
Well, the analogy I would use is your cell phone. So in order to get my cell phone to turn on, you need my fingerprint.
Right.
And that's just one step removed, but you need the consciousness. So when you see, like, for example, Chris Bledsoe. So I say, Chris, how do you fly craft? And he says, okay, you go in, he said, and there's this pedestal standing there. And it's like a beehive pedestal. And they tell him to put his hand on the thing. So people are either putting their hand on a ball or like a beehive. They're putting it on a flat panel, or they're putting it on a thing on the wall. And once you touch it, they'll all describe the same thing. They'll say, as soon as I touched the craft, I became one with the craft. Mm-hmm. The craft was alive. I and the craft were together. It's like I was the craft, and whatever I thought is what the craft did. So it's that idea. It's like the putting your hand on the cell phone and making the cell phone turn on. So what you need in order to turn the UFO on is you need the consciousness. You need the handprint to turn that craft on. It's done with it's turned on with consciousness, and it's flown with consciousness. There is no steering wheel. Even if you go back to what's his name, Cat Stevens. Cat Stevens, the famous musician, was abducted. He said quite clearly, and he was abducted in London. He wrote 2 songs about his abduction. One was called Longer Boats. One was called Freezing Steel. And I believe the song Freezing Steel was written in 1972. He said, I was on the ship of freezing steel, the ship without the guiding wheel. And so you can ask all 50 people, they'll say exactly, it's like they're reading off a cue card. It's unbelievable. They'll never say there's a control panel, there's not a steering wheel or whatever. It's always this hand thing. And it's always consciousness. It's always becoming one with the craft. And then there's these bizarre little things that make you know that they're telling the truth. For example, the guy, the F-16 guy out of LA, same as I have a guy, 747 United Airlines pilot, they'll say this thing, they'll come in the craft and there's people behind them. And they don't know if it's beings or if they don't know if it's human beings. And they'll stand in the middle of the craft. They'll tell the same story. They go, I'm standing in the middle of the craft and I don't know what to do. And then I hear this voice behind me say, go ahead and do it. And then the guy says, I don't know what to do. And then they say, you know what to do, just do it. And then like the F-16 guy goes and puts his hands on this panel. And he said, as soon as he's got his hands on the panel, he said it was like suction cups on an F-16. He said, suddenly, boom, he's flying the craft. And he's going, oh my God, he's flying the craft. And then he takes one hand off the panel and he's waiting for the thing to stall. And then nothing happens. Then he takes his other hand off. He keeps it a couple inches above the panel so he can slam it back down if the flying saucer does. But they can take their hand off, but they become one. So you get the situation like, if you remember Chris Bledsoe, the story with John Alexander. So John Alexander, and that's what happens, is these government officials go and they try to contact people like Bledsoe. How are you getting contact? How is this coming in? Who are you talking to? And that's what you got to do. You got to look at the experiencers as to what they're doing. So John goes down there and Chris shows him around, shows him where the abduction took place, all the different things that happened. And they're standing there. And all of a sudden Chris says, they're here. They're here. And John Alexander says, well, how do you know they're here? I just know they're here. I know they're here. And he said, then John says something, boom, this thing appears above them and goes flying off into the sky. The reason that they can tell they're here, a lot of abductees will say the same thing. I'm in the morning. I'm trying to figure out, they're coming today. I know they're coming. I know they're coming. Because once you've been one with the craft, you vibrate the same as the craft. You have the vibration. So when that vibration's in the area, you can sense the vibration. And that's why I think that people blow out light bulbs. That's why they have electronic problems, is because you're at a higher frequency. They take you to this higher frequency. You come back and then you've got this vibration thing that is affecting electronics. So when the craft is in the area, and a lot of them will tell that I did the orb thing. I don't know if you saw the orb panel. I've got these people who've got like thousands of orb photographs. And I always say to them, are you actually shooting the orb? Do you see the orb flying around? No, I just sense it. I know it's there. They tell me to go outside and I know where to shoot. They tell me what part of the sky, and I shoot, and all these things appear on the film. So it's this idea that we're all, the whole thing, it's all one thing. It's all connected. We are all one thing. We're all vibrating. And if you can get the signal, if you can get rid of the chitter chatter in the brain and pick up the signal, and that's why people talk about meditation. That's why you have that sort of thing where you're raising the vibration. Like the Mission Rama protocol is you do the mantras. They're raising vibration so that the being, or if you take seances, the same thing. Seances are the same thing. They sing songs. They raise the vibration for the beings to come in. They can make that contact. And it's all vibration. It's all energy. There is no nuts and bolts. And we're making these false assumptions that it's nuts and bolts. But I have another guy, we're helping him publish his book. He's a guy out of Israel. And he had the beings, his beings were like green beings that looked like grays. And he talked about them leaving. He said when they left and they all held hands in a circle, and they started to make this circle and went round and round and round and went faster and faster. And he said suddenly they turned into light. And then the light got smaller, smaller until it was a little tiny ball, and then just boop, and it was gone. So the question is it nuts and bolts, or is it a ball of light? And if it's a ball of light, does it eat bacon, eggs, toast, and coffee in the morning? So you can see it's moving into this thing, almost like Bashar says. If you remember, Bashar says, we come to you in your dreams because now you're in our world. And that's the whole deal. It's this world of musicians who pick up songs from the field, or people who are savants who are able to do these calendar calculations. That there's all this stuff is in the field. All the answers are there. Near-death experiences and abductees tell the same story. At one point during the experience, they knew the answer to everything in the universe. And I'll say to them, like, how do you know you knew everything in the universe? How do you know there wasn't something number 7, 8, 9 on the far side of the universe they forgot to tell you about? And because I had the download experience, they'll say the same thing. They'll say, I'm not sure. I just know. And that's the thing. It comes with absolute certainty. I know I was there. It was more real than the real world when I came here. This is the dream. And they're picking up this material. And then I'd say, well, how long did it last? How long did you know everything? And they said it was exactly like a dream. And I said, I'm going to remember, and I'm coming back, I'm going to remember. And as they came back, it was like a dream, just and it's disappearing. And they said by the end of the first day, all they could remember was at one point they knew the answer to everything in the universe.
Now,
it's
it's about positive intention, and this is what works for me when I'm with a group of people. Grant, don't laugh, comedy, laughter, pastrami sandwiches.
Yeah,
I can call them in, right? Which says to me that ET is hungry and they like a good stand-up routine. But it's about positive intention, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a way. Like there's different modalities. For example, Gary Nolan, from the guys doing the DNA stuff with the experiencers from Stanford University,
right?
He says, I don't know how it works, but I know how to make it work. And he says, I go through all the problems. This is the way the laser was invented. This is the way the hologram was invented. You go through all the problems, you work through it all, you analyze it, whatever. And then he says, I write it down, the question, and I put it beside the bed, and I wake up in the morning and I have the answer in my head. That's a guy, runs a genetics lab at Stanford University. If you take it, Whitley Strieber says, I do this sensing exercise. It goes through his mind, finger, toe, and he goes around he does it twice a day for half an hour each time, and he can tap in. And he picks it up. If you take a look at this Tyler D guy, who I've met a couple of times, this Tyler D guy from American Cosmic, when I met him with Chris Bledsoe in a meeting at a cottage in Pennsylvania. He told me the story about this invention that he got that came into his head. If you read the book American Cosmic, they talk about he gets brought to the Pentagon and the one-star general yells out, who came up with this idea? And they all point at Tyler D. And he's figures like he's in lots of trouble, but he came up with this invention. And because I was in the download thing, there you go. When I was in the I had my own download, so I was very interested. So I said, well, how did this happen? He said, I can tell you what, Grant. All I remember the night before I woke up with that idea in my head in the morning, the last thing I remember the night before was a hooded figure standing at the end of the bed. I said, a hooded figure? And I said, could you see its face? He said, no, I couldn't see its face. And nobody can see the face in the hooded figure. And that's the wisdom being. So then I said, well, you go to LA all the time. He works with kids in operating rooms. He works on, because it's all medical stuff. And I said, well, you should go to Yvonne Smith. you should go to, and we actually had it arranged. I had Yvonne Smith. She knew who he was. I said, go, Yvonne Smith will regress you, and you can find out what the being said. Now, what he says is, his modality is, he says, I sleep 8 hours, I get up, then I go to bed, back to bed for an hour, then I get up and I get a glass of water, and I go out and sit out in the sun, and I drink this big glass of water in the sun, and they start talking to me. And that's the thing. So there's these different modalities. People are figuring out how to tap in. And Whitley Strieber's, he says, I never drink coffee, I never drink alcohol. Whereas Whitley Strieber says, oh yeah, I drink alcohol and I only sleep 4 hours a day. So it's totally different modalities. But almost like Bashar says, they're permission slips. Whatever works for you, run it. Just do it. And that's, so I look at people, and the same when they look at Chris Bledsoe. That's why he has like the president and the CIA and everybody's coming to him, because he's got some sort of modality, and they're trying to figure out, because the government isn't talking to the beings. And so because they cannot talk to the intelligence, they have to talk to the people who the intelligence is talking to. And that makes sense. Or even, I remember Betty Andreasen, they were complaining, her husband was complaining to me about the fact that they had these low-flying helicopters around the house, and they were tapping his computer and stuff. And I said, did Betty ever get the drawings from the craft? Oh yeah, he says she drew all how the craft flies and stuff. And I said, well, are you surprised that they're watching you? Come on, of course they're going to watch you, because you're tapped in. They're trying to figure out who are you talking to? And that's the whole thing behind the Millabs. If you talk to Melinda Leslie, they bring you on and they say, who are you talking to? What are they telling you? And they're trying to figure it out, because the beings are not talking to the government.
Now, there's another part to this. You mentioned this earlier. And I've noticed this because it's happened to me hundreds of times, where I will take out my night vision, right? And I'll look up at the sky at a specific. Now, I've got the whole sky up here, right? I can go anywhere with the night vision, Grant. And I will go up and go to it and see something at that moment. You know, I'm not looking over here where there's nothing. I'll be drawn to a spot in the sky and see something at that instant. That tells me, and I don't know what it is, I don't know how I'm tapping in, but I am moving to that section of the sky and seeing something at that moment.
Yeah, that's the thing is that people will report this, especially the orb people. I'll say to them, are you filming the orb? Do you see it? And they say, no, I just know where to shoot. And this thing appears on the camera. And I have a business guy, big time business guy here in Winnipeg, and he had 2 sightings. One was at a lake where he's watching a movie, and it's sort of like a UFO movie. He's not really into UFOs, but it's a UFO movie. 10 minutes before the end of the movie, he suddenly gets the idea, I should go out and skywatch, and like he's going to miss the end of the movie. So he gets up and he says, and you should take your laser. He goes on, there's a laser, and he says the thing goes flying by. It's like 50 feet away, and he hits it with a laser, and it's just blown away. And then he's back home again, and later on, it's maybe a year later, he has another one. He lives on the river. This thing's coming down the river, and he sees it, and he's calling his wife, get out here, get out here. And she comes out, and she's looking at the thing, and then later he's in a party or something, and he says, I saw this, it was an orange ball, it was all like it was on fire, like it was on oil and stuff, it was on fire. And she says, that's not what it was. And he said, yeah, that's what it was. And she says, no, it was a silver craft. And he said, it was? She said, yeah, it was a silver craft. And then he's got some money. So he goes after psychics and people like that, high-level psychics. One girl who worked for a guy who used to run the Air Force remote viewing program. She does work with him. It's not government work, but he hires her, and he says, and he's asking her all these questions. Then he says, okay, so I had these 2 UFO sightings. He says, so where were they from? And she goes, what do you mean, where are they from? They weren't from anywhere. He said, well, yeah, I saw them. He describes this. No, you sent them. You sent them to yourself to wake yourself up. And that's the whole thing where you start looking at this loop about, are you the person that's behind the actual experience? Is there actually an out there, or are we manifesting this whole thing? Like the whole idea of the world where it's all, there's a big giant computer game, and we may be the ones that are actually manifesting this thing, and we think it's an outside force, and we have more. And in fact, you see this thing with experiencers where you go into the thing where there's a near-death experience or the abduction experience. Everybody's describing something different. And the concept comes down to that if you are fearful, you're going to have a fearful experience. You're going to see grays. But if you have these people who are like love and light people, they're going to see these beings who are like light beings and stuff like this. And your message is going to be different. And it's the idea, because one of the modalities I do is in psychedelics. So I do the John Hopkins psilocybin thing, and that's what they tell you. Same thing as at Stanford University. They do the remote viewing thing. So when you're in this very plastic world,
Wait. Slow down. What did you just say? You do the psilocybin thing.
They've done research on psilocybin.
You are not doing psilocybin.
No.
Okay.
I study the research that they've done. Yeah, no.
Let's clear that up.
I wouldn't mind doing psilocybin. But anyway, so they do the thing, and what it is when you are in this world, when you are in the UFO experience, abduction, whatever it is, it's very, very plastic. It's very easy. The things are manipulated, and they know how to manipulate things. Things aren't as solid as you think they are. So what they do in the psilocybin, or whether it's the lucid dream research that was done at Stanford University, is when you're in the experience, you can change things in the experience. So what they do in John Hopkins is they try to stop you from having the fearful experience. So once you start getting scared, they have two people in the room who grab your hand and say, "It's okay. Go towards the being, whatever the being is. Go towards it. Give it unconditional love." And it will turn into a positive being. And you hear this over and over again. It turns into a positive being. And that's what we think. It's a very solid world. Everything's solid. And the more you learn about quantum physics, you start to realize it's not solid. There are no colors. There's probably no time and space. It's very, very plastic. And we're just in this world where our left brain is making us think that everything's solid. And when you get into that world, you start to realize, like, oh, it's not the world I thought it was. And they are just able to do it. They know things. They're not magical. They just know how the universe actually works.
At Starworks in November, Grant, you're going to be there. We're going to do 2 nights of sky watching. Yeah. So you've got to come out with this. And now it requires comedy, humor, and pastrami sandwiches and night vision goggles. Are you down for it? You want to come hang out with us? I'm down for it. Yeah, we'll have some good times. Sometimes I get frustrated with sky watches because people are sort of arguing about some light in the sky or whatever, and I always say, "Man, if you saw what I saw in 1975, you'd be going to bed just like me." And I turn around and go to bed. I mean, I didn't see a light in the sky in 1975. I was pretty close. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about what I was looking at. Yeah, let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Grant Cameron. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Another great conversation with Mr. Cameron on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Humor, laughter, pastrami sandwiches. Grant Cameron. Can't lose. We'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Permanent industrial glue impossible to remove? Not anymore, because Handyman Formula by D-Bond is a patented chemical adhesive remover. It's used in the building and home maintenance industry, but now it's available for your home use, for your DIY projects. Unglue stickers, silicone rubber, labels, price tags, flex tape, weather stripping, carpet glue, wood glue, liquid nails, even 3M 5200. And it dissolves graffiti. Yeah, graffiti. Handyman Formula by D-Bond works, and it's safe to use on most surfaces. No need to call a professional. Don't get out the pliers and blowtorch. Just apply a little Handyman Formula by D-Bond and wait 90 seconds, then quickly and easily pull the items apart. Get unstuck. Visit DBondHandymanFormula.com. That's Dbond.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Grant Cameron. And if you ever miss a live show like this one, you miss a live show, get our podcast. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the podcast banner. It is just $2 per month. We have over 1,200 archive shows there. The best ones are any show with Grant Cameron, guaranteed. Hey, Grant, somebody just made a comment here. Grant is always a good value. He talks so fast. You get 4 hours worth of conversation in 2 hours. Oh, that is so funny. I want to kind of jump around a little bit, but I want to pick your brain. The Holloman Air Force Base film.
Yeah,
we know that the government is sitting on lots of stuff like that. Holloman is something that we know about pretty directly, from Bob Ebenegger. But do you think the Holloman... Look, the 3 videos that are out there now, whatever you see in those videos is up to you as an individual. I don't necessarily see anything ET, but I don't think that's the point. The Pentagon did officially release them like 2 or 3 times now. But that's not the good stuff. Right? The good stuff is like Holloman. Are we ever going to get to see those films?
It's going to be a while because they did, and I always talk about how they do this. I mean, they always have plausible deniability. Whether it's the Nimitz film or the Holloman film, they sort of put it there, and then they pull it back. So with the Holloman film, and this is one of the things, if you look at these two documents that we put out, the Wilson leak and the alien autopsy document, both these were reports to Bob Bigelow. That's what they were. Bob Bigelow had a lot of money. He was bringing in all these top guys, the Avery guys, paying them big money, and he was working on, and one of the things they worked on was the Holloman Air Force Base film. So they came to me to help